let us all do we can to build a better future. Vice President Kamala Harris recently said something that was so deplorable. If it came from Donald Trump or anyone within Trump's administration, the Democrats and the vote blue, no matter who crowd would be screaming from the rooftops.
I'd go one farther.
What's up?
I'd see all their hair on fire.
Probably so. There we go. So first, let's pull up this tweet. Shout out to Redacted Tonight. That's hosted by Lee Camp. Again, we've had Lee Camp on the show. I want to read the tweet first. Today in Guatemala, Vice President Kamala Harris told Latinos not to come to the U.S. The people in Central and South America would have far better cause to tell the U.S. military, the CIA, and all of the tentacles of the capital's ruling class to stay away. So let's play that video of Kamala being so kind, telling the people, hey, wait, we do care. Oh, wait, she doesn't. Let's play that video.
Kamala the Cobra.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. So let's discourage our friends, our neighbors, our family members from embarking on what is otherwise an extremely dangerous journey. I want to be clear to folks.
Okay.
Can I share a quote from her?
Yeah,
really
go
quickly
ahead.
As we go on.
Go ahead.
This was Kamala in 2018. Our supposed leaders in Washington need to stop attacking immigrants and instead make it clear that America is a place where immigrants and refugees are welcome. Refugees are welcome. Kamala in 2021. Do not come. Do not come. If you come to our border, you will be turned back. I had written this earlier. I thought Kamala Harris's campaign slogan should have been, she'll say anything and stand for nothing. But maybe that's what she'll say after the walking death rattle strokes out and she's put in the position to run.
You know, again, we've said this about the Democratic establishment. They're just like the Republican establishment. And if Trump or anyone from his administration said this, you know, corporate media, TYT, and all the people that were browbeating everyone to vote for Biden would be foaming from the mouth saying, oh my God, we got to be humane. Remember, Biden's campaign was return the soul back to the country. But there's a reason why immigrants from Central America and South America are coming to the United States. It isn't just one day they woke up and said, hey, you know what? I just want to cause trouble. No, that's not why at all. In fact, the reason why there's a massive wave of immigrants coming to this country is because, again, regime change wars, CIA coups, oh yes, and the ridiculous war on drugs that are turning countries into war zones and civil war areas where, again, people are at risk. I mean, no one wants to raise a family in a war-torn country or a country that's ruled by criminal cartels. No. So they're going to take that arduous march. And I'll tell you this right now, I'm not a tough person. I wouldn't make that march. But there are brave people who are trying to find a better life for themselves. And they hear the story about the United States, how you can become who you are. But then when you hear this from Kamala Harris, hey, K-Hive, where's the humanity at? Where's the compassion? So I want to pull up, again, people who disappoint or continue to disappoint. And it's like, really, what world are you living in? Let's pull up this tweet from AOC. This is disappointing to see. Oh, really, AOC? Let's pull it up. First, seeing asylum at any U.S. border is a 100% legal method of arrival. Second, the U.S. spent decades contributing to regime change and destabilization in Latin America. We can't help set someone's house on fire and then blame them for fleeing. Again, that video that she retweeted out is from the same video that we played earlier. But look, everyone, AOC, what world are you living in? I mean, it wasn't too long ago you were saying that Biden and his administration were exceeding expectations for progressives.
Sure they are.
I mean, Biden's the next FDR, right?
Oh,
I mean, well, oh, wait, Biden's not the next FDR. We're still continuing the same policies that were under Trump, that were also under Obama, that were also under Bush, that were also under Bill Clinton, that were also under Reagan. I mean, again, this is continuing the same policies, conservative neoliberalism. That's what we're living under. AOC, are you going to call it the Democrats now? I mean, you're part of the system. You do have a strong progressive following, Or are you just going to say words and not do anything else?
She's going to pander. She's one of the Twitterati. All she does is Twitter, and you know she could
Surrender Squad.
The Surrender Squad, right? I mean, look, there's so much pressure that they can put on, but she's just, you know, she's transitioned into being a team player, which is just so horribly disappointing to everybody who thought, you know, along with Sanders, you know, we looked up to so many people who've just folded like cheap suits.
No, not only did they fold like cheap suits, but they just said, oh, it's okay. You could disrespect my followers. You can disrespect my words. Corporate media can smear me, and I'll just be on the cover of Vanity Fair, and that's it.
She's a celebrity now.
Yeah. So
she's a brand, AOC. How many other politicians, aside maybe from JFK, and I don't know if it was at the time or after, go by these, you know, their initials? Like, it's a brand.
Yeah.
This is a branded thing now with her.
It is a brand, but here's the thing. The difference between AOC and JFK is that when JFK said, hey, we're going to at least land a man on the moon.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, at least there was some follow-through with that.
I wasn't likening him to her.
I
was
know.
just the whole,
No. What I'm saying is, like, more of what's AOC, all her promises, she's never followed through as being a fighter. I mean, and she's giving the Democrats a pass, allowing Nancy Pelosi to constantly disrespect her. But, you know, at least corporate media is kind of acknowledging that, oh, wait a minute, Biden, well, you're not saying what you were running on. So let's pull up this first video. Shout out to Case Study QB. I mean, again, it's more things to take apart. And again, this is corporate media. Definitely. So everyone take it with a grain of salt because, again, the establishment, they're not our friends, and they never will be.
A decade ago, as you well know, it was then Vice President Biden who committed U.S. aid to the Northern Triangle region in hopes that it would stem migration. But since then, the problems have really only persisted. So what can the White House do differently this time, especially when it comes to U.S. aid money, to have a different or more meaningful result?
Well, Jeff, first of all, I think you have to recognize this is a long-term solution. You're not going to fix this in one visit or 1 year in terms of addressing root causes. You have to stick with it for several years. And part of what happened is we surged that assistance to Central America in 2014 when we had a wave of unaccompanied children. And then Trump came in a couple years later and zeroed that out. What it takes is truly an all-of-the-above approach where you're trying to provide assistance to get at these root causes. One of the ways is to fight corruption. Another way is to find ways to deliver assistance without going through the governments, to deal with groups who are on the ground trying to make people's lives better. You also need not just the messaging from people like Kamala Harris saying don't come. You need messaging in the local language from people who are credible in those communities, communicating the risks of going, the risks of dealing with these coyotes, the risks of that arduous journey. And then you also have to look at our legal immigration system. How is the asylum process working? Do people feel like there's at least some process that they can plug into? So this is the beginning of, I think, what has to be a multi-year effort to begin to bend the curve in terms of migration flows.
Yeah, and it's a good point. We should also mention that the U.S. has to make up for what has been a century of U.S.-backed military coups. There has been corporate plundering.
Thank you for that.
They're only going to say this one time.
From the region that add to the poverty and instability there.
Okay.
Kudos to him for that.
So hold on, because you actually brought up, you're making the thing overly complicated. Can you elaborate?
So from what I read, and I have these in the notes that I brought in.
Go ahead.
The argument that she's just upholding the law, encouraging what they call legal immigration, and that Guatemalans don't meet the standards for U.S. asylum laws the U.S. sets, forget that the U.S. sets specific standards for specific countries and controls the standards after our policies have completely destabilized Latin America from a century of U.S.-backed military coups and corporate exploitation of resources. So when you're setting the standard, the United States could change the standard to allow Guatemalan refugees to come in. They're just not doing it. That's why you've got Kamala Harris going down there and saying, don't come to our country, completely overlooking all of the socioeconomic impact that the United States has been involved in that part of the world.
Mm-hmm. Hearing again them talk about, well, hey, you need the government to come over there or somebody with authority to tell all the people who are escaping from Central America, South America to take this arduous journey to the United States, to tell them why you shouldn't do it.
Like it's a vacation.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of those communities are really hesitant to trust anyone of authority because they don't know who they're associated with. They could be someone associated with the cartels or a corrupt part of the government. Yep. And again, a lot of people are easily afraid because there's a lot of clear danger in these countries, and making that decision to make that dangerous journey to the United States, it isn't an easy one because there's a lot of risks that needs to be taken into account. And so many people are, die along that route, or is it at becoming trapped into, forced labor or far, far worse.
Exploitation or trafficking. What can the U.S. do on the ground there?
Yeah.
Why can't they work at reforming these immigration and refugee policies? Because who was it on Twitter? I've been researching this all before I was invited to come on today. The Tina Vasquez on Twitter. She wrote, "This is a defining moment for Kamala Harris. I will never forget this because it's also in violation of asylum laws."
Yeah. Well,
what Kamala Harris is stating in her speech there.
We'll never forget Kamala Harris also, during her time as Attorney General for the state of California, withheld evidence to keep an innocent man on death row. Right? Everyone needs to remember that. And, Tulsi Gabbard took her down on that one. That's what ended her campaign.
Kneecapped her brilliantly.
Yeah, I'd say kneecap is an understatement.
But people forget that.
Yeah,
people forget how exposed Kamala was during the debates because she failed upward and was rewarded with being installed as vice president so she can replace.
She was a second choice. Originally, it was going to go to the wonderful senator from Minnesota.
Which one?
The Klobuchar.
Klobuchar. Yeah. But the thing was, Kamala was anointed by the Clinton people. I mean, she had a lot of Clinton staffers on her campaign. Couldn't get one delegate. Tulsi kneecaps her. She drops out. So naturally, she's selected to be Joe's vice presidential running mate because, again, it's very simple. Either he's going to have a health issue, he's not going to run again, and she's being installed by the neoliberal establishment. I mean, you can literally connect the dots to how diabolical that is. It's legal.
It is.
But you want to talk about some House of Cards shit. Yeah. Seriously, excuse my language. I know I'm supposed to watch
I don't care.
But, we watch House of Cards on Netflix and we think, oh, it's all, entertainment. No.
Oh,
those are the games that are played that got Kamala Harris, who couldn't get one delegate, the vice presidential slot. So make of it what you will.
Not only that, 0 delegates, but no one,
nobody wanted her.
She didn't make it to the first primary.
No.
She didn't make it to the first primary and out like that. No gas, no energy. And her campaign ran out of money. Let's actually pull up this next video. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. Corporate media is talking about this. But again, everyone, look, this is corporate media we're talking about here. They're going to say this, but they're not going to cover it again. Let's play this video.
The vice president is the administration's point person in immigration, and she is facing some heat now from some fellow Democrats. Vice President Kamala Harris arriving in Mexico for the next stop in her effort to stem the flow of illegal immigrants. And yesterday in Guatemala, she had a message for those seeking to enter the U.S.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come.
Do not come. Do not come. A statement that angered many on the right who say the Trump administration was pilloried for that kind of language, and some progressives weren't happy either. New York Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took aim at Harris in a tweet and blamed the U.S. for destabilizing Latin America.
Just words.
This is disappointing
Virtue
to see.
signaling on
Can't help
Twitter.
set someone's house on fire and then blame them for fleeing. The group Refugees International says the VP's message undermines the right to seek asylum under U.S. law.
And what she said in 2018.
But the administration is facing a real challenge at the border. Surging numbers of immigrants, many of whom say they expect more lenient treatment from President Biden. And Harris defended the White House strategy to address the root causes of immigration rather than emphasizing security at the border.
And I will continue to be focused on that kind of work as opposed to grand gestures.
Still, this is a dramatic departure from Joe Biden's welcoming message to immigrants when he was campaigning for president. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Okay, so there you go. But right before we had...
Sorry, the bat phone rang for a moment. I thought I turned it off.
There you go. But real quick, everyone, I think it's very important that we look at the problems with with Kamala Harris and her statements. She's nothing but words right now, and same thing with any Democrats that are right now wagging their fingers at the Biden administration. Not words. The Democrats will not fight back against Biden and his administration, and everyone prepared to be surprised in 2022 when the midterms start that they're going to be asking you for money, asking you to vote for them because, oh no, we got to stop the Republicans. But again, look, we get a lot of pushback from a lot of people saying, well, how come you don't talk about the Trump or the Republicans? We know who they are. The GOP establishment, Trump, At least they're upfront with their BS. We know who they are. We know what they're going to say. But the Democrats, they put on this face of being the good guys. Okay, again, you hear it from Kamala Harris, don't come here. And then what is the progressive pushback? Well, we got to put more progressives in the Democratic Party. If you go inside the Democratic Party, you're going to lose your spine and become a flatworm. That's it. Now, you caught something and brought it to my attention, and it's a short video, but let's go ahead and play it.
Yeah, run it.
And let's go ahead and run this, because, again, a little bit more from Kamala Harris, Kamala the cop, who, again, vote blue no matter who. K-Hive. Here's your fighter. Here's your champion.
Blue MAGA.
Then one more, just because we're going to Mexico tomorrow. Madam Vice President, there have been questions about why you and President Biden have yet to visit the border, the U.S. southern border. And I'm wondering if you can answer some of those. Republicans have charged that you're not taking the situation there seriously. So how do you respond to that criticism, and when will that visit come?
On the issue of Republicans' political attacks or criticism or even concerns. The reason I am here in Guatemala as my first trip as Vice President of the United States is because this is one of our highest priorities, and I came here to be here on the ground to speak with the leader of this nation around what we can do in a way that is significant, is tangible, and has real results. And I will continue to be focused on that kind of work as opposed to grand gestures.
So why haven't you visited the border?
She didn't answer the question.
She's like Obama. She's able to string words together, and it's not quite a word salad, but it still says nothing. She's Obama in a wig.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he was the king of being able to make people think he was saying important things, and then when you really got to it, it was all a dodge. And that's all she ever does now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the kids are still in cages.
Yep.
Again, nothing has fundamentally changed. And expecting the Biden administration to follow through with any kind of progressive policy, it's a fool's errand. And so here's my thing. There's a lot of talk about Trump running again in 2024. And a part of me wants to see it happen again, because I want to see all the liberals, all the vote blue no matter who, once again, crap their pants. I want to see them.
That would be entertaining.
I want to see them run around screaming, foaming from the mouth, saying, we got to stop Trump. We got to stop Trump. And I'm wondering how that election will play out. And I'm really curious to see how the 2022 midterm elections will play out if the Republicans are able to take seats away from the Democrats. Because then what I have to say to all the vote blue no matter who and diehard Democratic voters is, well, what's your plan? Convince me to vote for you. Because I'm not going to tolerate anyone browbeating me and saying, well, just because I vote third party, I'm a bad guy. No, Democrats, you got to earn my vote. And right now, again, nothing has changed. Biden's words are very true. Nothing has fundamentally changed. And sadly, the kids are in cages, and we're still dealing with the same neoliberal economic system that we're living in. And again, this is an administration that was supposedly supposed to bring in change. Now, we here at Heartland's Media said, no, that's not going to happen. But yet, thanks to corporate media and larger outlets like TYT and Majority Report and everyone else that was saying, we got to stop Trump, we got to stop Trump. Where are you now? Are you silent on the issues? Yes, you are. Because everyone was saying Trump was the bad guy. The system that gave rise to Trump is still moving along. The system that gave us Trump will give us Trump again, or somebody worse than him. So I don't want to hear this crap about how the Democrats are better. The Democrats have proved that they are the Washington Generals. They have no backbone. They don't follow through with their words or any of their promises. We don't owe them anything. And again, if this was somebody from Trump's administration saying these words, everyone would be screaming from the rooftop of just how deplorable they are. But yet the vote blue no matter who and K-Hive, you want to know where they're at? They're at brunch. TYT, well, they keep talking about Trump. Corporate media keeps talking about Trump. But we're going to be talking about the hypocrisy of the Democrats and why we need to break away from the two-party system. So if you're a diehard Republican voter or a diehard Democratic voter, look, I don't mean this to be offensive, but you are a very good puppet. You have been convinced that your vote matters and that somehow you are a number one constituent. You don't have a seat at the table. The people who have a seat at the table are corporations. And Kamala Harris and Biden will just smile at you, pat you on the head, and just say, thank you for being my puppet. Same thing for Trump. He'll pat you on the head and say, thank you for being my puppet. How long is it that we're going to take this until we finally cut our strings and we're free from this two-party system? I don't know what it's going to take, but it's got to be a general strike, and we don't owe these politicians anything. Democrats, convince me to vote for you. Prove me wrong. There we go.
I mean, they've deplatformed Trump, but they're still talking about him.
Yeah.
And I've made this analogy, I forgot where I heard it so many times, but at least with the Republicans, you know your enemy. The difference between Republicans and Democrats is that the Republicans will pour gasoline on you in an alley and set you on fire. The Democrats will just beat you up and leave you on the ground. They're both really bad things, but neither is a choice you want to make.
No.
And that's basically what we're facing with our two-party system right now.
Exactly.
I like the Harlem Globetrotter Washington Generals metaphor also.
Yeah, but see, then that means the Republicans are the Harlem Globetrotters,
right?
That's just god awful. Because the Harlem Globetrotters, they're beautiful. I love them. I think they're great.
But they're controlling the Washington Generals.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about Joe Manchin, there's so many ways that Democratic leadership could literally make him a eunuch, and they don't do it because they don't want to.
Yeah.
They could defund money that comes from the Democratic Party for his reelection bid, but they won't do it. That's how they keep progressives in line. They threaten to cut off the money when they want to campaign, and that's how they keep them in line. Why don't they do that to Joe Manchin?
They won't, because they don't have the courage to do so.
I don't think they want to.